Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. His name is Courtney Thomas. Courtney, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right, sir. I want to go to your background first. You are a meditation teacher. You are also
Yes.
a holistic wellness advisor. You earn BA in Ayurveda wellness and integrative health. And you're also the co-founder of Lunar Float Spa and Salt Cave in Colorado Springs. I would like to ask, because all these background are into meditation and health, what inspired you to go into that area? And what and how you are doing currently? Like, what was the thing that inspired you to go into this background that motivated you firstly, sir?
Yeah. So it was the seeking that started for me. I was going through some rough times, a lot of personal struggles that I was happening to go through. I grew up in, the south side of Chicago, a lot of violence and things in my neighborhood. And by my mid 20s, I had faced multiple incarcerations. And it just became a point that I just no longer wanted to live how I was living. I felt like I had more potential inside of me, but I really didn't know where to go from there. And so I didn't grow up with religion. My family didn't have like a religious background, but something was saying that I needed to start to seek something that was greater than myself. And so that time in prison, the last time, the third time, um, I just decided that I would kind of read through the Bible and see what it would do for me. And I remember reading a verse. It was Jesus' quote, John 14:12, he said, "Very truly, I tell you, not only will my disciples do the works that I've done, but they'll do greater things." And I can't necessarily say I believe that to be truth. At that time, I was sitting, in a prison cell for the third time. But I did have faith, and the faith was probably about the size of a mustard seed at that time, but it was enough to get that spark started. And I remember making a sincere prayer where I just asked, if you are who you are, then just lead me. And there's no place that I won't follow. And that's kind of how my journey started. I didn't know where I would be led, but I was led to like the Indian traditions. It started off with yoga asanas, kind of like the postures. I maybe started that with a book, kind of like doing it at home at first. And then I decided to go to like a local gym and start practicing with other people. And I started feeling good. Things were happening inside. And the next piece was that I was reading and learning about was meditation. That yoga is a way to prepare the mind and body for meditation. And again, I didn't know where to start or where to go from there. But I remember seeing Oprah Winfrey. She was doing these 21-day meditations with Deepak Chopra. And I didn't know who Deepak was. This was 2010, mind you. And I didn't know who he was, but I knew Oprah. Like when I was a kid, she was on the TV in my household. So I decided, I would just take a chance and start the meditation practice with them. And so that's kind of how my journey started off. Things progressed a lot from there. I would say, I would say so. Religion for me was seeking God with outside of myself. And then there came a point where that religion kind of switched over to spirituality. I felt like I was getting stagnant and I felt like that God is within. This is the scriptures that I was reading, God is within, that this is our temple. And that if we learn to purify this temple, that we can make a greater connection with the creator. And so I started kind of going more towards spirituality. And so that's why I feel like the difference with religion and spirituality is either seeking outside or seeking within. And the meditation practice really helped with that process. And I started to see results kind of happening in life, and things started going better from there.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I can also relate to that. Sometimes when we are just down, things are not working, we're trying to look for something that is just, that will bring us back. It's also happened to me when I was just down and I felt like it's like I'm far from God. I just need to go back to God and see how I can just get back on my feet. I really relate to that. And I would like to ask, do you have any book you've written, or do you
I,
have any book you are writing, or you've not thought of writing any book, sir?
yeah, I have thought about writing a book. I'm in the like preparation stages. The book is called Inmate to Enlightenment. And so I'm working on that process now. Mostly these past few years is about me getting my services out. And so that's when I created. So I guess I can step back a little. The practice, the way that I found to help purify the mind and body was through a system of healthcare called Ayurveda, which is from Eastern India. Um, I learned the beginning parts of that from Deepak Chopra when I went to his center to kind of go through a cleanse, an Ayurvedic cleanse. And then at that center, I learned that him and Oprah was learning a lot of these, principles from a guy named Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, and he brought transcendental meditation over to the US in about 1954, somewhere around there, and that he had a university in Iowa. And so I decided, after about 3 years of doing the Ayurvedic routines and seeing the results in my life, that I would give this back to other people. And so I decided to go to the university. That's when I started my bachelor's degree in Ayurveda and integrative health. And at that time is also when I started the practice of transcendental meditation. And while I was having the results that was happening inside my own subjective experience of how I was growing, in consciousness, it was at that time that I started to see that these things start to manifest for me on the outside as well. And so after about a year of my bachelor's degree, I felt like I was ready to be of service to others. And I that's what I wanted to do. And so I decided to open up a wellness spa that is Luna Float Spa in Salt Cave. And for the past 4 years, we opened in July 2020, kind of like at the height of COVID, which we did really well, surprisingly. But I think a lot of people's awareness was on, alternative ways of healing at that time. And so we did really well. I've been able to kind of have my practice and see how it integrates with other people and what they're going through and see their results. And so now I feel like I'm in a place to get the message out, both by speaking and by writing this book. And so the book will probably be out sometime next year. It's a process that I'm going through, working with publishing company and ghostwriter and kind of all those aspects. So it's a process to go through.
All right, so does the book have any topic now, or you've not decided on putting a topic on it now?
Yes. So it's a teaching memoir. It's my story, but in a way that I'm teaching these principles that I've learned. And again, the title is called Inmate to Enlightenment. So it's my prison experience and where I was then and the process that I've been able and the path that I've been able to take to gain this higher level of consciousness, this growth in consciousness. And this is what I want to be able to give back to other people. So
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I want to go to the point
yeah,
of the yoga philosophy, sir. I would like to
yes,
ask what the core principles of the yoga philosophies are.
for sure. So the most well-known person that's brought yoga philosophy to humanity is Maharshi Patanjali, and his he has these 8 steps. They're called Astanga yoga, and so there's 8 steps to actually yoga means union, and that's a union with God, union with Creator, union with the universe, and so there's 8 ways or aspects that one can go through to reach this state of union. And this is again, they call them the 8 limbs of yoga. And so it's yama, niyama, asana, which is most people think of as yoga today, is really called asana. There's pranayama, there's pratyahara, which is, you can say, like internalization of the sensory perception. And then there's, concentration, and then meditation. And ideally, that last part is samadhi. So that's when you've actually reached that state of union. And so I was going through my process of it. So I'll give a kind of 2 ways to explain it. My own subjective way from what I was experiencing during that time, and then the philosophy that I've come to learn as I've been growing in the knowledge and as a teacher. And so the yama and niyamas was kind of for me like the do's and don'ts. And so when I was starting in religion, it was almost like the Ten Commandments. Um, this is the things that I no longer want to do in my life. And then these are the things that I want to add into my life to, become a better person. And after that, so that was like my religion when I was in prison. And then when I got out, that's when I got attracted to yoga or to asanas. And that's when I started my asana practice. A part of yoga asanas, most people are doing some type of breath work. And that breath work is what you can say is pranayama. And when I was going through my experience, I was learning at first because I've done many different meditations during my time from 2012 to I actually learned TM in 2018. So I was going through this process of seeking. I found his name is Paramahansa Yogananda. He wrote a book called The Autobiography of a Yogi, and his technique is called Kriya Yoga. It's a way to um, control life force. Prana is life force. Yama is like the control of. And so it's a way to control life force in the body. And so I was going through these processes. And he says that this is the way that you can like cut off sensory perception and go within to have this more internal experience. And then, from there, then you can actually reach a point of concentration and then from there go to meditation and then samadhi. So when I was learning it, this is how I experienced it myself. And then also some people think of these limbs as steps. So you have to go through this step to go to this step to go to this step. But in reality, it's not actually that way. The limbs of like if you think of limbs of a body, they all grow together. And any of those limbs you can take to actually get to the goal. And so the way that I've come to, understand the yoga philosophy now, Yama is more like the administrator. And most people would probably think of that as God, as the administrator of the universe, or we can say God or the creator. And so that would be the first limb or Yama. The second limb, if you're administrator, you have to have rules in order to administrate at an efficient and effective level. And so those are like the niyamas. And those rules we can think of as the laws of nature. That's how I've come to learn them. There are specific laws of nature that, created the universe, that created our planets and our solar system and created us. And these specific laws, if we are in alignment with them, then our path is easy. It's effective. It's you have to put forth less effort. If you're not living, if you're living against these laws of nature, then it's like you're swimming upstream and life becomes complicated. So those are the first two principles or limbs. You have the administrator, and then you have these guidelines or rules on how the administrator administrates. And then yoga asanas is another limb. This is a way to put the body in certain positions or postures so that you can connect your physiology, human physiology, with the physiology of the cosmos. Um, Pranayama, it is a way to control life force, but you can either do that forcefully, kind of how I was learning with Kriya Yoga, and also did some things with Qigong on how to like force the energy to go to certain ways. Or you can just kind of do simple breath work. And by doing, per se, like alternate nostril breathing, what happens is the energy in the system starts to kind of go to a place where it's ideal for meditation. And so when this happens, then that internalizing of the senses actually goes within. So that's that fifth limb. And then you can kind of go into the ways of concentration, meditation. Meditation for me now with transcendental meditation is the limb that I use the most. It's a mental technique. It's very simple, natural, where we're using a mantra and we learn how to use that mantra properly. A mantra is a vehicle for the mind to go within. And it's a sound, it's a vibration, and it's alignment with these laws of nature. It's a sound that's in alignment with the laws of nature. Every individual has their own unique mantra. And so you're using that mantra to transcend sensory perception. Once the mind settles down, the body also settles down. And when that happens, the body starts to release stress, release impurities, and then we go to a place where we transcend to that field of where everything was created from. And so that's the yoga philosophy that I know more of knowledge based now. But there was also my subjective experience of what I went through. I did kind of go through them as steps, but they don't have to be that way. So
All
I
right,
hope that
sir.
was a good answer.
Yeah, a very good one. Thank you so much, sir. And this yoga is always concerning to me. I would like to ask, is yoga something that is founded in a country like, or it is just something that just came from nowhere? Who founded yoga? Is there anyone who founded that? That thing just is just a natural thing that just came out without no background.
So I would say there are certain individuals that they call them rishis. A rishi means seer. That means that that person aligned their physiology enough to cosmic intelligence where he was able to see the finer vibrations of reality, the things that, a dog can smell or hear that we necessarily can't pick up with our own sensory perception. And so those individuals who were living in these higher states of consciousness, they were able to see that if you place your body in a certain position, it's almost like I'm 41 now. So back in the day, we had these antennas on our TV that we had to like move to a certain way in order to pick up the channel, right? And so there's frequencies all throughout nature. And simply by putting your body in a certain position, it aligns that with the cosmic intelligence, the cosmic alignment. And so what that does is to help that intelligence that created the universe to now come through you so that you don't have to work so hard at trying to do other aspects of life. And so it's not really based on a specific culture or religion or area in, on the planet. It's associated more with the Indian tradition is because that's where the knowledge was more kept and held. But these were just high consciousness beings who were able to see these finer aspects of reality. And this is what they were able to cognize through their own subjective experience. And now, it's mainstream. And so you can tell, you can do scientific research on it now to see that if you do this, that this is the benefits that happen for the body, where they were doing their own science, but they were doing science on themselves. They didn't need the technology and all these aspects to prove that it was correct. But science is now catching up with what the ancients already knew. And it again, it really has nothing to do with like a culture of a certain place. It's just where the knowledge was kept and held for most of humanity. And so now it's getting more mainstream. And I think this is why people are picking it up more. You can find a yoga studio in every corner now, in the US. And yeah, that's what I would say about that.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I would like to ask, do you think yoga is one type of the future when it comes to exercising and meditation?
Can you say that one more time, please?
Do you think that yoga is one of the future when it comes to exercise and meditation, sir?
Yes. Two parts to that. Uh, so I don't associate yoga asana, what most people consider as yoga, with exercise. Um, I think if someone wants to exercise, they should go to the gym or however that looks for them. Yoga wasn't it's not a practice to, get fit or look better. It's a practice to grow in consciousness. It's a practice to live, the highest potential of a human being. And I think because it's been so mainstream, people look at it as an exercise form or, there's a lot of misconceptions, I'll just say, with what yoga asanas really is. And there's so many different types and forms, hot yoga, chair, this yoga, that yoga, um, which I think it does a bit of an injustice because I'm a purist at heart. I like the authenticity of the ancient teachings. And because I've done so many different yoga practices over my time of seeking, and I've done many like teacher trainings for these things as well, what I found is that what most people are teaching isn't authentic yoga asana. It is exercise what they're teaching. And so the value of just attention when you're, doing the process of yoga asanas is going to determine what happens during your practice. And then you mentioned also meditation. I think it's crucial to place those two things together, that to do yoga asana without meditation is almost a disservice to doing the practice at all, because the yoga asanas is really just to, place the mind and body in a place where it's settled, so that when you sit down for meditation, that you can actually have this transcendence uh, easier. And so those would be my two answers to that.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And please, sir, can you please discuss with us what Dharma, Dharma means and its advantage and benefit in yoga practice, sir?
Dharma, I would say, is more like your purpose. And so purpose and mission to me are different aspects. Um, Purpose would be for me like, the reason why something exists. Okay. So then I would have to ask myself, why did I come to have this human experience? Because through my studies and through my growth in consciousness, I've realized that I'm not the body, and I'm not the mind, that I'm much more than that, pure consciousness. Jesus said, if you know me, then you know the Father, because we are a direct image of the Creator. And we've come to have this human experience. And so the question again comes to, why do I exist? Why did I come to have this human experience? For me, that's a simple answer. It's simply to reach the highest development of human consciousness, of human ability. And that's simply by being, but it's a process that you have to go through of purification of mind and body in order for that to be the reality. That living in these higher states really has nothing to do with how you feel or your mood or your attitude or anything like that. It has everything to do with the physiology. Most importantly, we're talking about the nervous system or the brain, how the brain communicates, like brain coherence, how the left and right hemispheres of the brain communicate with each other, and the refinement of the nervous system, because our sensory perception is directly connected to our nervous system. And this is how we then experience our reality. And so, purpose for myself is to, that's why the book is Inmate to Enlightenment. Purpose for me is to reach these higher states of consciousness, the highest state. It started for me again in a prison cell where Jesus was saying that I could do the works, that we all can do the same works that he did or greater things. So that was like the beginning of my process. And I'm reading about all these miraculous works that, Jesus has supposedly done. We'll just say that. And then if I felt at that time that a conviction that maybe I could do this, maybe this could be me. And so that's where my journey started. And now that is my purpose, is to reach those aspects. Now, as far as a mission, um, because I had the privilege of doing this transformation and I've acquired all of this sacred knowledge, my mission is to give this knowledge back to other people so that they can rewrite their stories, so that they can climb from wherever they are, from darkness to light, so that they can, also reach these highest states of consciousness. So that's what I would say about the Dharma aspect. And depending on your karma as a person, um, every individual has their own karma. That means their past actions and actions that's to come. Then that will look different for everyone. I had a little brief time of where I had to realize, that I'm not an Indian saint or an Indian guru. And, where most people think of meditation and yoga, this is the image that they're getting, um, that I am who I am. And where I've come from gives to me, an advantage to relate to other people because I still have the knowledge and I have the tools to reach these states where I've learned from my guru. And this is things that I can now give to other people from my level of consciousness, from how I look as an individual, and how I perceive the message and give that back to other people. So,
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I want to go to the point of goals. Like, let us go to the point of exercise. When I'm exercising, I know that I want to build my body. I want to be, I want to reduce anxiety. There are a lot of, there are a lot of things I can say. These are the benefits of exercise. When it comes to yoga, according to what those people in the past, those ancient people, according to what they said, though, according to what they said, like, what are the goals of yoga when someone is constantly going on yoga? What did they say yoga, like the goal of it?
the goal of yoga is simple. It's to unite the individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness. That's the whole goal of yoga. So when we say yoga, we can look at this in two ways. Yoga is both a path and it's a destination. And so yoga paths, these are what I explained in the yoga philosophy. There's 8 different paths to, and we call this yoga, but there's also a different meaning to yoga, which is that wholeness, that union. And so there's yoga as paths to reach the goal of yoga, which is uniting ourselves with God, to become one with the creator, to know self-realization that, as Jesus said, you know, if you know me, you know the Father. Jesus was living at that highest level of consciousness. He knew that there was no separation between him and the creator. And this is a process that you have to go through to unite your, again, individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness or cosmic intelligence or God or the creator. And that is the goal, is to unite that, to realize, to self-realize that there's no difference between me and God. That we do have these physical bodies, but we are not these bodies. They are ours to use as an instrument to reach these goals. And so that would be the goal, is union.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to go to general advice when it comes to the yoga philosophy to the audience. Is there any advice you like to give to the audience? Is there anyone you have in mind, sir?
Yeah. I like to start with Ayurvedic principles when I'm talking about this because they're simple. When I'm saying we're trying to unite, you know, um, ourselves with these laws of nature, then, what's the process of doing that? And so this was kind of the beauty for me on when it started. To unite your body or mind with these laws of nature, there's some simple practices that you can do that anybody can do. One of the most important aspects is the natural rhythms of a human being. So say sleep, for an example. There's certain processes that happen in the body that in certain times of the day, that if we align ourselves with this, then we'll have more energy, more metabolism, more digestion per se. And when we're talking about sleep, just say at 10 p.m., as far as Ayurveda is concerned, at 10 p.m., wherever you are, and on the planet. At 10 p.m., what happens is the energy channels in the body begin to close. It's almost like a flower. In the morning, when the sun comes up, the flower opens. At night, when the sun goes down, the flower closes. Same thing's happening within our physiology. And to be sleeping before that happens is going to give the body the best results of rejuvenating, regenerating the cellular process to digest whatever foods that we brought in for the day and to metabolize them to turn them into energy. And then to wake up before a certain time, say 6 a.m., is a time where you're going to have the most results of your body waking up, having that energy source, and being able to carry that throughout the day. I used to say, early to bed, early to rise makes a person wealthy, healthy, and wise. Little slogans and things like that. But that's just one simple aspect. Another one could be the time that you eat your biggest meal through the day. And so digestion comes from heat. The way that we're able to take an apple and break that down is how the heat works in our body. And so because the sun has the most heating effect for our solar system, if we eat our biggest meal, say at noon, then this increases the ability for our bodies to digest the foods that we're taking in. So to be able to just kind of bring those certain aspects to a daily lifestyle, those are two basic things of sleeping and eating. If someone was to change those aspects simply, you'll see a lot of different results that's happening for the good, just on a simple level. I use a lot more aspects of Ayurveda now. Ayurveda is based on the five elements. And so those are the principles of Ayurveda, that the universe is made of these five elements, and so is our physiology. And there's three different types of mind body types. They're called doshas. Dosha is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. A Vata person would be mostly, made up of ether and air. A Pitta person is mostly fire and water. A Kapha person is mostly earth and water. And so by keeping those elements balanced within the body, then you start to have better results in life and mind and body as well. When those things get imbalanced in the physiology is when you start to have kind of havoc in your emotional state. For me, for an example, my reasons for going to prison was mostly violence. And so whenever I got emotional or something happened, then how it came out was me being violent. And then when I went to learn about Ayurveda, when I went for that first cleanse, what I learned was my imbalances were mostly pitta imbalances. Diet is choosing certain foods that, let's say broccoli or carrots, they may be healthy, but they might not be the right choice for you, depending on your dosha or your body type, what your elements are. And so just kind of finding out what that is, how you can integrate those with either foods, with herbs, with essential oils, now in Ayurveda, to kind of keep my mind and body in alignment with those laws of nature so that I can continue to align my individual consciousness with cosmic consciousness.
All right, sir. That was so touching and that was very educating. There is a question I normally ask. If there, from the ancestors, from the forefathers, if there is anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing would be, sir?
My next probably biggest project. I mean, I've like the Ayurveda, I would say, okay, so there's about 15 different, we call them consciousness-based technologies that we have been giving from the ancients. And that my guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who brought this knowledge to, say, America at this time, has been able to establish and we can use now today in our world to make things better for everyone. Transcendental meditation is the core of that practice. It's where everything else stems from. And so once you have that core foundational practice, then there's many different aspects that come into play, whether we're talking about health, whether we're talking about astrology, whether we're talking about, how we build our homes and our communities. And that's probably the one that I would like to bring up the most. I like the astrology aspect too. And it's not as well known. Um, it can be things for your health that you can use the astrology aspects for. I remember hearing a quote from JP Morgan. He said, millionaires don't use astrologers, billionaires do. And so I've been able to use this astrological process to help build our business, Luna Float Spa, how we've been able to grow, 8 times in revenue, double square footage. We can use it to know um, when we should hire new people, for example, when we should sign certain contracts, when we should expand the business. And simply by knowing a certain place, say my birth chart, when I was born, the time I was born, and the longitude and latitude on where I was born, then I can get a snapshot on the future of where I'm going and any area of life that I want to focus on. And it's extremely accurate that I've been able to use this to grow my personal life and my business brand. So that would be one of them. But the one that I'm focused on a lot right now, due to like a personal mission of mine, is we can say architectural aspects. I remember reading in the Bible, when they built the tabernacle, that it was like this many cubits by this many cubits, and this is how they built their structures. And this way of architecture that I've learned from this Vedic tradition, it uses similar principles, but it also adds a lot more in there where, you know, let's say you're taking your astrological chart first to know when you should break ground. And when you break ground, there's certain gemstones that should be in the foundation of your building. These gemstones, they were also talked about in the Bible, where I believe it was Moses' brother, Aaron, who wore the breastplate with the 12 stones in them. So a lot of this information is in biblical text. It's not deciphered. You have to be at a higher level to be able to decipher what was actually being spoke about. But to use this for architecture, to put those gemstones, and the gemstones have a vibration or frequency, and they're similar to our planets. So that's what they're doing, is to use these gemstones to have the vibration of our planetary system, which once you now go and live in this home, that it connects your individual consciousness with the cosmic consciousness. So having gemstones in there, having a certain, it's kind of like an antenna, they call a kalash, on the roof of the building that helps to create a certain energetic aspect with the cosmos. The buildings have to be certain facing direction towards the east or the north to have this auspicious aspect to it. So it's a lot more that's involved with that. So what I'm doing right now is working on building one of those for our business. Our next location that we're putting up is it's called Vastu architecture or Vedic architecture. So I'm working on doing one of those right now for our business. Ideally, a big project that I want to work on, it's one that would actually help humanity out overall. There's 12 pyramids. And this is something that I was able to see in a vision before. And then I was also able to get more information about this vision from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's structure on what he was looking to do. And so there's 12 places on the planet. Kind of look at them as like chakra systems, like the chakras. They're energy centers, where Maharishi chose to put these pyramid shaped structures on the planet. And one of them is, it's close to my neighborhood where I grew up, maybe about 5 minutes from where I grew up in Chicago. And when I was first learning about not even this type of architecture, but when I got the vision, I started doing some research, and I was looking at it from the Egyptian, like the ancient Egyptians' point of view. They called it geomancy. And what they were explaining was if you can affect the way that energy flows within like the crust of the earth, then you can also affect how it flows above that earth in that same place. And so they were making structures, the pyramids, which changed how the energy flowed within the planet, which will then again change how it flowed around the planet. And so they were making like what's called a consciousness grid, is what they were doing. They were placing these pyramids in different places on the planet to create a grid of consciousness to raise the consciousness of humanity in a faster pace. And so that was kind of the vision that I was given the same. And I really didn't know how to go about this. I didn't know anything about the knowledge at that time.
Yeah.
But as I continued to grow in consciousness, then I continued to get more information. And so this is what I'm looking to do as my big picture, um, is to help to establish these 12 new pyramids. They're about 108 stories tall. And so that means you would have to dig down in the earth that amount in order to create a stable foundation. And again, when digging that far down and putting these, foundation stones with the gemstones that's inside of that place, it's definitely going to change how the energy flows within that crust of the earth, which then will amplify that energy above wherever those pyramids are. And once you create all 12 of them, then those 12 kind of connect together, which creates a electromagnetic field almost around our planet, or consciousness grid, which from my point and what I've been shown, solar flare activity. Sometime in the future, wherever that is to come, that the sun is going through a transition. The sun is only about halfway through its life cycle, and it's going through some internal combustion aspects that's going to provide solar flares out into, the universe. And our planet is so close to it. So I've been shown a way to um, intensify or amplify our electromagnetic field of our planet by using this type of architecture when these solar flare activities happen. So
All right, so that was very educating. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate and thank you for your time. And I think I learned a lot today, and the audience are going to. I want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm making our meeting a successful one. I want to say thank you so much, sir. Mr. Courtney.
thank you. It was a pleasure to be on with you today.
All right, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
All right, goodbye.